Hello everybody, this is George from Ireland, not a live stream because it wasn't working, internet's gone dodgy. No doubt that's Russian interference, not really. Anyway, in this video I'm asking whether Ukraine's fight back is working because they've received tons of weapons, armaments from Western countries since the 24th of February invasion, and is that beginning to pay dividends? Well, it is, but slowly, but not very much. HIMARS, one of the most important things they've got. These high mobility artillery rocket systems manufactured by Lockheed Martin in the United States. Only a bit over 500 have ever been manufactured. They've been around for about 40 years. Now, almost all of those are in the hands of NATO countries. The United States has got the lion's share of those. Ukrainians have received about 12 in total from the United States, Germany, and the United Kingdom. They needed a lot more of those because the Russians are something like a 10-to-1 advantage in artillery. The Ruskies have always heavily emphasised artillery, which is why they're slow. They'll only move at the pace of the artillery because you come to a bridge that's been blown up, you can't get the artillery piece over it. Do we have to build a bridge? It's going to take us ages. Or maybe dismantle it, put it into a boat and get it across, and so on. And because their artillery is so inaccurate, emphasising volume of fire, not accuracy, then that's an awful lot of ammunition they've got to bring up because they waste munitions by missing. Their accuracy is something like it's only like 50% even hit the right city, so I heard. Well, the HIMARS, their accuracy can be over 98% at a longer range, like 80 kilometers. Now, there is much longer range artillery ammunition they can get. I'm thinking about HIMARS, they're quite cheap. They're about $5 million. I mean, the rockets they fire are like $70,000, which is pricey, but extremely accurate and destructive. So these are making a bit of a difference, but they're not arriving at anything like sufficient numbers. What if NATO countries gave all their HIMARS, which is almost 500 of them, to Ukraine? That would make a huge difference. But what about the NATO countries? Obviously, Lockheed Martin, they can always make more. I don't know how quickly they can manufacture more. And the 500 or so HIMARS the Western countries to give, they can't give them today. To put them in planes, to fly them, even at top speed, would take a few days. And obviously you've got to train people for up to 3 weeks on these things. But that really would stop the Russians in their tracks. And the strategy of the HIMARS is apparently to hit command posts, also ammunition dumps. The Russians, being very authoritarian, has to be all in one big depot, and therefore that's a big target, because if you blow that up, you've cost them so much. Whereas the Ukrainians are following a different Western strategy of diffusing everything, so that if some ammunition dump does get hit, there's not that much, and it's a small one, make it difficult to locate. But Russia, being a control freak society, doesn't do that. So the Russians are beginning to sustain serious losses, and Russians have begun to accept this. Or Yegor Girkin, who commands some Russian separatist forces in Ukraine, even said that on his Telegram channel. He writes under a pseudonym Strelkov. Russian air defense systems turned out to be ineffective against massive strikes by HIMARS missiles. Okay, and Sladkov has said something similar, Alexander Sladkov, and he works for Pervam, the main channel in Russia. He said the following: Ukrainian missiles and artillery have struck decision-making centers on several times, with results. The centers are small but important. So even the official Russian state media is acknowledging that this is hurting them. So because they're the long range, the Ukrainians can be out of range of the Russians when they're firing them. So they're fantastic, and obviously they're mobile. They're actually built into the truck. The trouble is, if that truck breaks down, the HIMARS is stuck. That's the advantage of towed artillery. If the truck breaks down, you just attach it to a different truck and you drive off. There you are. So they just need a lot more of these things. But yeah, Russia is grinding forward very slowly, but they seem to be largely catching their breath. Kramatorsk, Slavyansk, these are the next cities there. So the Ukrainians want NATO to know that they're putting this equipment to good use, that it is really a worthwhile thing to give them. The latest aid package from the United States they announced last week, and more $400 million worth of equipment, including 4 HIMARS. Anyway, the Russians obviously are getting worried about this, and rightly so. And that's why it is winnable for Ukraine. I mean, given the tools, they'll finish the job. So Russia is suffering, and that's why they they're beginning to try and get people out of prisons. The FSB, the Federalная служба безопасности, that's Russia's internal security agency, going to prisons, trying to convince prisoners to volunteer for the military or indeed for reconstruction work. Because there's ruinous damage to Russia. The European Union estimates it's $750 billion to repair the damage in Ukraine already, and the longer the war goes on, the higher and higher that's going to get. So Russia, by reducing a city to rubble, okay, you can win, but then you've got a city which is absolutely worthless. It can be extremely expensive to build it again, but Putin is completely short-sighted, doesn't care how much suffering he causes even to his own people. So the Russians are really scraping the bottom barrel for the troops, or Wagner group, which is a private military company. They're trying to persuade people in prison these felons will be released if they go to sign up to go and fight. And so they're doing that. So that is a problem for them. The Ukrainians talk about creating a 1 million strong army, and that's doable. So they're 42 million people. So let's exclude females. I know women can be soldiers, and they are soldiers in some cases, but that's unusual. That's about 21 million males. A lot of those are too old or too young. That leaves about 10 million. Even if only 1 in 10 of those served, you have a 1 million strong army. They've got almost no navy left because they've got no ships left. I mean, NATO could give them some ships, train some ships, but then you've got to sail through Turkey. But all right, that's NATO territory. Would Turkey allow that? They'd be inclined not to. But then you have to go over a base to be able to go for refits and repairs. I mean, I suppose they could go to Romania, Bulgaria. Would that be allowed? Would Russia say, well, we're going to hit you there, then there'll be Third World War? We will see. So Putin has proven to be a liar yet again when he promised in March this year that he had no intention whatsoever of taking an inch of Ukrainian territory. Lie after lie after lie, for shamelessly told. Who would be so utterly imbecilic as to believe a single word this totally mendacious man says? So now Russia's offering fast-track Russian citizenship to all Ukrainians, even areas of Ukraine that are still free. They've already offered it to places under Russian illegal occupation. Now, Russian citizenship is usually expensive, time-consuming, and complex to obtain. They're pressurizing Ukrainians under their rule to apply for Ukrainian citizenship, to Russian citizenship, and so on. They are brainwashing Ukrainian children in the schools they've taken over and things like that, trying to bring in teachers and administrators in these areas they're taking over. So that's what's happening. It's yet more proof positive that Russia intends to keep these areas for a very long time, change the map of the world through unlawful violence. But this war of bombardment continues in desultory fashion. If it's an artillery duel, on the face of it, Russia would win. But if the Ukrainians get enough modern artillery, they can defeat the Russians. They can destroy the Russian artillery, and the Russians can't destroy them. But the idea is if Ukraine can sustain the fight till the autumn, and they certainly can, then they'll be sufficiently well-armed, well-trained, being trained abroad in Poland, the United Kingdom, elsewhere. Could their air force be upgraded to really modern NATO-manufactured planes? But you want to train a combat pilot for months, maybe even years, because these are so expensive. The best American planes cost over $100 million a piece, so you don't want to risk that being destroyed too easily. Well, they might not really want to risk it falling into Russian hands. If it's shot down, will the Russians be able to study it then, steal some of the technology? Things are going to get worse for Russia. They've run out of these guided missile smart bombs, using all dumb bombs. They can't get the transponders, the microchips, the electronics, anything from Western countries to fit into their missiles and everything else. So the economic pain is going to start to be felt, which won't overthrow the regime, won't end the war on its own, but the totality of being driven back on the battlefield, plus the economy being slowly strangled, that might force a change of policy from the Kremlin. Thanks for watching. Bye.